This also sounds like it could be very copywritten. Yeah, ugly crying is a thing, but like, I don't know. I feel like other people, I've heard ugly crying in games and movies and stuff before that sounds a lot better than Clive and Jill doing it. Well, there you have it. Final Fantasy XVI. Someone in chat said I can speed up the credits with the D-pad, and they're a liar because I'm pressing the D-pad and nothing is happening. I've been lied to. Is it left stick? It's not left stick. It's right stick. Right stick. All right, I'm just gonna let them go for a little bit. But, yeah. That's the end. Kind of a, I mean, I'll say it straight up. I don't think anyone who's watched my channel for long will find this as a surprise. Pretty lame ending. Pretty lame ending. Clive just, like, slowly turning to rock and dying on the shore after all this stuff that happened. I was fine with Joshua dying, because I didn't really like Joshua all that much in the first place. He was neat, but he, like, to me, he was nothing special. But, Clive dying at the end is lame. Very lame. So, yeah. But does he? Is he really dead? Unless there's a post-credit scene that shows him alive, like, the only real conclusion there is that he is dead, and you're fooling yourself otherwise. But, if they don't, there's no magic, so there's no curse. You saw where he stopped the magic and then held up his hand, and then his hand turned to stone, right? Like, do you have eyes? I have eyes. Look, all I'm saying is it was a lame ending, that he doesn't get to, like, go back to Jill or anything. That's lame to me. I don't like it. So many credits. Look at them all. I don't think I need to be holding right stick for this right now. But, anyways. Really good game. Fantastic game. Really good stuff. I really, really enjoyed the gameplay. I mean, the main thing about it is the gameplay. That's the best part about FF16, for sure. Loved it a lot. The story left a good bit to be desired. I was really invested, like, before the time skip, but after Kupka died and they pivoted more to Ultima in general, but, Ultima was just really lame, I think, is the main thing. At the end, is Ultima sucked. And Ultima, by the end of it, Ultima felt so like, hey, look, it's what every JRPG does at the end as well, but worse than every other JRPG does it. Because, I mean, I said it straight up during it. I was like, wow, this is really like Zanza from Xenoblade 1. But Xenoblade 1 did Zanza, like Zanza's appearance and then going through Zanza's stuff and the build up to him so much better than they did Ultima's build up throughout this game. Throughout all of this game, Ultima was just kind of like there, and the entire game it was like, oh dude, Ultima is like a problem that exists, and that was kind of like it. It was like, yeah, Ultima, he's a bad dude, and then you get to the very end of the game and Ultima is like, yeah, I'm like created you guys but didn't give you free will, but you got free will somehow, and I was gonna just like kill you all, or like, but like you're better than me. It's just really lame. At the end of the day, I was kind of feeling it like post the Kupka fight, because the stuff with Kupka was awesome. The stuff leading up to like, oh, the blight is caused by the mother crystals and Sid wanting to undo them was really cool. But like after that, when they went full focus on Barnabas and Ultima, I was like, man, Barnabas and Ultima are just kind of like cookie cutter and lame. There's nothing really special about them. That like the whole like Ultima is a god, quotation marks, who wants to like control everything and like I'm better than you humans and like you're not as good as me, etc. Like the whole thing, it's not inherently bad. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is one of my favorite games, and they do a very similar take with Zanza, for instance. But in other games where they do that, because they do that in a lot of JRPGs, normally what makes them stand out is they do something special, or they really like they really flesh out the villain in some way, or they do like really good build up to it, or you know, they do a twist on it, something that makes it better than just the default, right? Like, Ultima was just like, hey, look, it's the concept, and we did nothing special with it at all. Like, it seemed like they were gonna do something special with it, with like, oh, he needs Clive as a vessel or whatever. But the whole Clive being a vessel thing, it never really amounted to anything, right? Like, it didn't amount to anything at all. It was like, oh no, Clive, he's going to use you as a vessel. And they were like, we can't let him do that. And then he didn't. It really never, like... There was that one time where Ultima was like, or was it Barnabas? I think it was Ultima, was trying to like get rid of Clive's will, and then Joshua was like, no, brother, I'm with you, for like one scene, and they were like, never mind, we didn't. But, I don't know, there's just nothing special about it. There was nothing that really made Ultima stand out as a villain of this archetype compared to so many other villains of the same archetype that did it all so much better. But they had like opportunities. The Clive Vessel thing, the fact that Ultima was actually like 8 dudes instead of just 1 dude, but that was also like irrelevant. The only purpose of there actually being like 8 Ultimas was just to be at the end like, hey, look, there are like 8 of them. Oh, there are like 8 of them. That's why he says we. That's crazy. But it didn't amount to anything. So, like, with how long the game is, especially, the back half of the game, like, after Kupka dies, is just, like, lame, basically. The story just doesn't grip me at all, and that portion of the game is so long that it really hurts. I think something else that also really hurts it is how they placed the, what am I thinking of? Is how they placed the side quests in this game. There were so many side quests there were like 2 different sections of the game where they just dumped like 8 side quests on you suddenly. Is like, it takes attention away from the main story as they're trying to build up Barnabas and Ultima so much. Like, we had like 5 side quests, or 5 or 6 side quests that like got dumped on us right when Jill got captured, right? And then for like so much of the game, you're like, oh, well, I can't go save Jill, I have to do these side quests. And then that just keeps you disconnected from the main story for so long. And they really do it right before the end. Origin comes up, it feels like, oh, this is the big climax of the game, it's time to finish everything and all that. But hey, wait a minute, take like 6 hours to do side quests and rare hunts instead. And it's, you know, that could have been better spread out, in my opinion. Very much so. But anyways, I think that they really just wasted Ultima as a concept. I feel like they kind of wasted Barnabas too. Barnabas could have been such a more interesting character and whatnot. Kupka was a really good villain. And it's pretty much just Kupka, right? Kupka was a great villain. I think they did really well with him. Benedicta was a good like start at the beginning of the game with Garuda and all that. And then, yeah, that's about it. Like, fighting Dion was really cool. Honestly, the Emperor being tricked by Ultima and all, and kind of being the, like, quotation marks villain leading into the Sanbreque stuff and then Dion going crazy, that was also pretty darn good. Best boss fight in the game, I would say, even after doing the final boss fight. Not Ultima. The Bahamut sequence was amazing. That was so good. But really, just Ultima and Barnabas are both just so lacking as villains that it really, really drags down the last, like, third of the game. I think so, I would say. And that's really let me down a good bit. Also, I feel like there are so many cool things they could have done in this game story-wise that they didn't. I was really expecting, especially after they hit you with the time skip after Sid died, I was really expecting for dominance of people that had already died to show up. I was expecting to be like, oh, dude, there's gonna be, like, a new Garuda dominant and a new Rama dominant, and that's gonna, like, play a role somehow. And it didn't, which was really disappointing. And they never used Leviathan, which sucked. I would have loved to have seen Leviathan in this game. That would have been such a beautiful boss fight. Would have been great. But yeah, at the end of the day, the main thing about the game is that I think the story really lets me down the most. And I really care about the story of JRPGs a lot. That's one of my, like, the things I care about most. That's why the Tales of franchise is my favorite, and I love Xenoblade 1 and etc. But yeah. The main thing about this game is that the gameplay hard carries it. It's got some of the best gameplay I've had in a game in years or whatever. But, truly fantastic gameplay, really fun bosses, really good enemy variety, just really fantastic stuff, really cinematic, great stuff. Really makes up for the story being lame for the most part. Yeah. And then there's the characters. The characters in this game aren't bad, but I don't know, man. There wasn't really a character in this game that really stuck out and really gripped my attention. Clive was really cool in, like, the first... It really comes down to, like, the first half of the game. Like, up until Clive took Cid's name, and then even a little bit after that, Clive was really awesome. But again, when it gets to the Ultima portion of the game, like, after Bahamut especially, Clive is just kind of, like, he kind of falls into the same trap of, like, he's there. He's there just like how Ultima and Barnabas are there. Like, they did really good with Clive in the first half, but then there wasn't really anything to do with him in the other half, and there wasn't any other character to really take the attention when Clive wasn't, like, at his best. You know what I mean? Because, like, in Tales of games and in Xenoblade 1, because those are the big JRPGs that come to my mind first, those games it really helps, because, like, Shulk is an amazing character in Xenoblade 1 all the way through. But when Shulk isn't the main focus, other characters like Dunban and Melia, oh my goodness, Melia, and Fiora and Sharla and Rhine, they really, like, they have their moments in the story that it's like, oh, dude, it doesn't matter that Shulk isn't, like, killing it right now, but, isn't killing it right now because these other characters are really holding my attention, and they also had way better villains in that game. And it's the same thing for, like, Tales of Xillia, and Tales of Arise, and Tales of the Abyss, and Tales of Berseria, all those other JRPG Tales of games that I love. You know, you don't need the main character to, like, really carry all of the awesome characters or, and whatnot, because there are other really good characters that can do it. But FF16 doesn't really have that for me. Joshua is fine. Jill is cool, but I feel like they really dropped the ball with Jill. Jill, like, there should have been so much more during the second Mother Crystal of the game where Jill had stuff going on and whatnot. Would have been so awesome if they had just built on Jill's character more there and done more with her. I would have loved that a lot. But Jill was like, you know, she also kind of, a lot of the characters just fell into the kind of like, yeah, they're there being cool. They did really well with Cid, but then of course Cid died, so he wasn't there to like carry the game during that part. I don't really care for Gav. Gav is fine. Byron is awesome, but he's like, he's not awesome in the way of like, oh, he has like great character arcs and building and whatnot. He's just like really awesome whenever he shows up on screen. He's funny, he's charismatic, he does cool stuff. Not really what I'm looking for. He doesn't like, Byron doesn't have character development, you know? He's just there to be awesome. But, you know, I just really feel like the game, especially in the last third of it, really started to drop the ball on character interest and especially in the story, and that really dragged down the back half of the game of me, even though the gameplay remained amazing, especially when they gave me Odin, because Odin was very, very fun to do, very fun to play with. But, yeah. Anyways. For the person in chat being like, new dominance showing up takes time, they could have written it however they wanted. Like, they could have made dominance show up more quickly, they could have made the time skip longer, etc., etc. I'm just saying, I think there's a lot of other really cool stuff they could have done with the game to make stuff go faster and whatnot, to like be able to make stuff like that work. I'm just saying, the game really, story-wise, was lackluster for me after Kupka, pretty much. And especially after Bahamut, and I think that's a cooler thing they could have done, because it would have been really cool for another Rama to show up, right? Like, after, with you having Cid's namesake, and then another Rama dominant shows up, that would have been awesome. That's what I was really hoping for, was something like that, and it didn't happen. But, anyways, you can say as much of like, well, that's not how dominants work. Well, then maybe they should have done dominants slightly different from conception, in that case. They're the story writers. They could have done anything. Anyways, at the end of the day, the game is still amazing. Great game. But really, at the end of the day, it's really the gameplay that makes it great. Clive is a really good protagonist. I do feel like he's kind of like, you know, stuff couldn't have done. Like, there should have been more at the end of the game, basically. The thing is no matter how awesome Clive was, you can't really just have, especially in a JRPG, you can't just have one character carry the entire cast. You know? And that's what Clive had to do, basically. It was like, the only, like, really good characters in this game were Clive and maybe Cid. Maybe Cid, I would say. And the only, like, good villain, really, was Kupka. All of the other villains were very which was a major letdown. There was, like, Ultima was lame. At the end of the day, I didn't like Ultima, and he was supposed to be the big, awesome one you look to at the end of the game, and he didn't do it. he didn't do it. And honestly, like, he didn't need to be amazing, because I'm thinking back to Tales of Arise, which I love, and the big bad at the end of Tales of Arise was technically Volron, but more so was the Spirit of Darkness or whatever, and I think that worked great in that, because it didn't have a personality, and it was more about the concept of him and how he was ruining the world that they were trying to save and all that, whereas Ultima, also trying to do a similar thing of like wanting to destroy the world and all to make his own, but they gave him character. Like, he talked a lot, they built him up throughout the entire story, not just as like a twist at the end, like how they do Zanza or the Spirit of Darkness in Tales of Arise. He was like throughout the entire thing. He showed up from when Sid died, when they did the first thing. That was like the first third of the game. But just absolutely, there just wasn't enough going on with Ultima. He was just way too cookie-cutter lame, and there wasn't another good villain to kind of fill the role of like, okay, but this villain was awesome and brought the game together. It just didn't work out, I think. I give the game like an 8.5, maybe a 9 out of 10. Probably a 9 out of 10. Maybe more like the story did really let me down in the back half, but I disagree about Kupka's drive being Benedicta, making him lesser of a character. I honestly think it was very fitting for him and was great, because he was a guy who was driven by worldly desires. He was like, oh, I'm Titan, I'm amazing, I'm like, I can do whatever I want in Rondella, or not Rondella, Dhalmekia, like, I'm the hotshot and whatnot. And he's like, this is my, you know, he loved Benedicta and was like, this is, you know, I can do whatever I want, no one can touch me, etc. And then he lost one of, like, his things, quotation marks, more or less, because he was like, oh, Benedicta is mine, I'm like, we're above all of these worms and etc. And so him like losing her after, for the first time, probably the first time in his life, being like denied essentially, was really, really fitting. And then he became driven by revenge, which I think was, again, very fitting for the type of character and archetype he was. So I honestly think Kupka was probably the best written villain in the game, especially when you hold him up next to Ultima and Barnabas, who were kind of just there to be there. They were just there to be the in-game villains. They didn't really have anything else going for them, like, at all. But, yeah. So I give the game, I think 8.5. It's pretty good. Probably more like a 9. We got a post-credits scene. I'll give it a 9. We'll go with 9. The story, the more I think about the story, the more I don't like it, though.
Every time.
Will you light it?
Yes, Mother. Come on. If only I had the flames for an Eikon.
Eikon? Have you been reading that silly story again? Magic belongs in fairy tales, and fairy tales don't boil kettles. You see? Well done. Now, be a good lad, and play with your brother until supper.
Come on, hurry! Hurry!
It's a dog!
Right.
Bark, bark!
Right, let's play the Saint in the Secretary. No, I don't want to be Madu. What do you want to play then? War of the Eikons! Again? Well, alright. And I get to be Ifrit. Right, I'm the older brother. Because Bahamut says so.
The dog is Bahamut. I love that. But where one journey ends. Falling Star. I like that name for a trophy. Fulfill a legacy. I like that a lot. Create game clear data. All right, we're done. We've done it. Finally make a second save file for it. Back to their origin, complete. New Game Plus is now available. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to do that for getting my Platinum trophy, because I will definitely Platinum this game. Increase player level cap of level 100. Did I hit the level cap? Was the level cap 50? Did I hit 50? I think I probably ended at like 48 or 49. I'm about to sneeze. Pardon me, excuse me. Final Fantasy gameplay mode offers the following, yada yada yada. Yeah, it's something for me to do on my own time. There you have it. There you have it, chat. Final Fantasy XVI. Fantastic game, great game. Did start to let me down a little bit in the last third of the game, story-wise, and even a little bit character-wise. But overall, still just really fun. The gameplay never let me down for even a moment. The gameplay was fantastic. Best part about the game, bar none. But if you've watched me for long, you know that the thing I care about most is A, characters, B, story, third, why'd I do A, B, third? That's not how the alphabet works. Third, otherwise known as C, if I keep my own verbiage going, is the gameplay and whatnot. So it nailed it on that. Characters were pretty good. Clive was a really good character, and then the story just really, really fell flat. The story was so much more interesting in the first half, and then basically after Kupka died, it just, I don't know, it kind of just felt like it was going through the motions of like, hey, this is a JRPG storyline, and wasn't anything unique or really fun to write home about, basically. But overall, still an amazing game. Very, very good. I give it a 9 out of 10. Fantastic game. I'm really interested in if this will end up being my game of the year or Spider-Man 2 will. After that last third and how Ultima was like a big letdown and all, I'm feeling a lot more like Spider-Man 2 is probably going to end up being my game of the year. But we won't know until I play it. So time will tell. But for those of you watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed this playthrough. I had a great time playing it, and thank you all so much for watching. As always, the playthrough was that much more fun because I got to share it with all of you. But yeah, great stuff, great stuff. etc., etc. If you want to catch streams live in the future, whether they be Final Fantasy or otherwise, link to my Twitch channel description. I'd love to see you there. I will, of course, be playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I believe it's called, the next Final Fantasy VII Remake. When that comes out, which should be next year, very, very excited for that one. And it should be great. So check out the Twitch channel if you want to try and catch playthroughs live, or keep watching on YouTube. I appreciate your support either way. And thank you once again for watching the playthrough. I hope to see you in the future. Until then, farewell.